Hello, everyone. Kim Victoria here with the first of my demos in oil painting. My supplies are super simple. We have the newsprint pad, a number 6 synthetic bristle brush. I have a piece of denim so that I'm just going to use one brush. And this is Citrusolve that I'm adding. It's a citrus-based solvent because it has no odor. It's really nice to use in a closed space. Two colors, white and burnt sienna, and I'm just making a kind of a liquidy mix so that all I have to do is wipe off my brush with my denim, and all I'm looking for here is the shapes. That's it. I'm not thinking about this object, what this object is. I'm just looking for light and dark, the shape of the light, the shape of the dark, and keeping very, very simple. So that's all we need to look for. And it's amazing what you can do when all you think about is just looking for the simplest things. So what's simple? We're just looking for, and you squint your eyes a little bit, and that helps you get kind of a blurry vision, so you're not really focusing too much on details. We don't want details. Initially, in your first layers of oil painting, if we work with the lean paint, and that's why I added solvent, we want paint that's kind of lean. We want it to just be a base layer. And I'm experimenting with the light and the dark. So that's it, shape, light, and dark. That is all I am thinking about. And I'm not worried about well, let's see, what we would call the separation between what in our mind we understand are two separate things. We're talking about the object and the shadow cast by the object. I'm not thinking about that right now. What I'm thinking about is there's a unity between these two things. But how quickly, this is just 2x speed. So super quickly, we can get a likeness of the object by just thinking about light, dark, and shape of the light and the dark and creating that unity. We could let this dry and put some color over the top and we'll be done. And here's a super close-up. So now I'm moving on to the other two objects in the setup that I created. So this one takes just like a little minute longer. I think the apple, yeah, the apple took 6 minutes. That's all it took. So if you're taking longer than that, you're trying to do too much. And we just want right now in this place of our expression and learning of oil painting really simply, you just want to keep looking at, okay, you're finding things. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm finding the relationship between these two shapes. How do they relate to each other? What is dark and what is light? What is the shape of the lightness? What is the shape of the dark? But initially, I'm kind of really just looking for the shape of the objects themselves. And I'm having a little bit different angle than my original photo, which so I can see now between what I'm painting and what you're seeing on the screen. There's a slight difference, but there's a part of that that is that searching. I am looking for the shape of the light, the shape of the dark, the shape of the objects. That's it. That's really all you want to be looking for. So I can't emphasize that enough. It's really to keep things super simple. A problem that occurs is if you start paying attention to what we call the surface appearance of things. If you start paying attention to the tiny differences, there's texture, there's little bits of color change. So working in just a light and a dark And you don't have to work with these two colors. If you want to work with white and a blue, white and a red, white and a green, whatever you would like to start with, just work with a white and a color. I happen to like burnt sienna. I think it's a really pleasant background base kind of color. Gray, you could work with a gray, Payne's gray, or a black and mix your own grays. Wonderful way to start. And when we look at old master paintings, a lot of what we're seeing when they take x-rays of them is you're seeing these base layers that are just two colors. That's all they worked with was two colors in their base layers. And it was an earth color and white very often because these were the common colors. These were the inexpensive colors. And then you're putting your expensive colors that have the details on top of these base layers. So it's so important not to think about the surface layers yet. When you're just starting a painting, when you're just starting to experience finding the shapes and finding the relationship of the two shapes with each other, it's so powerful to focus on the very basic elements. And this can be really hard because you're developing your ability to see in a simple way. And there's going to be some back and forth. There's going to be adjustments. You can, as you watch what I'm doing here, I'm making adjustments so that I'm looking back at the objects that are in front of me. I'm working from real objects sitting there, not a photograph. And so I'm looking at those objects. I have them at a little bit of a distance so that I'm not focusing on surface appearances. That can be a really good thing. Work from a photograph that's a little smaller so that you don't kind of home in on those surface appearances. And if you work with objects, objects are a wonderful way of developing your starter skills. And so I'm just going back and forth with making adjustments in the value. So that's the light or dark of what I'm working on. So this value aspect, bringing it up slowly. I've often said in classes, you know what, you can sneak up on a value. So you can, and that's one of the great things about oils. It's one of the things that excites me about oils. It's much harder in acrylics to keep adjusting your layers. In oils, you can kind of see where I can put down a color, not a color, a value, and then I can go back and I can adjust it. With acrylics, it dries so fast, it's much harder to keep adjusting it because you're working with a medium that has this transparency, a translucency, and it's harder to adjust your values. So you have to plan ahead. Acrylics are a bit more like watercolors, where you start with a drawing and you plan ahead what you're going to be putting a value, a tone, a color, a color that is in a certain value of light and dark. And you've got to kind of put it down closer to what you want at the end. And I love oils because I can just keep adjusting. I could put down, you've seen already in this demo, is that I put down a light and I go like, oh, that's a little too light. Okay, well, let's tone it down a little bit. And it's just a little harder to do. Now, I'm making a second video with acrylics of this exact same subject. So if you'd like to watch that, then please do. Because if you want to work with acrylics, you can do it. I just think differently when I'm working with acrylics. So in this one, I want you to see that what I've done is I have put a stronger highlight on the object to the right, because the object on the right is what I want your eye to go to first. I want your eye to have a place to land before it moves around what I've created. So I hope this has helped you. This is this is an important start to developing your skills with oil painting. And I really hope that this little demonstration gives you some encouragement about keeping things simple. You're just looking for a basic shape. You're looking for shapes of light and shapes of dark, looking at your values. That's it. It's a wonderful way to start. And newsprint is a great surface to start on because, again, I always like to reemphasize, you want to practice. Do the same objects more than once, and you are going to see yourself really getting the hang of it. Do more than one on one page. Use up that whole sheet of paper. All right, that's enough for this lesson. And thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.